Hello, and this is just too good to pass up. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest new approach into LaGuardia. That's in Queens, New York, of course. Famous for being in the Goodfellas movie, the airport heists, as well as the infamous expressway visual and parkway visual approaches. Some real nice videos on YouTube. Now, what's different about this now is we've got a real nice prescribed RNAV or RNP approach. Boringly labeled the 3-1 X-ray. There you can see the overlay. We're going to fly both of those, but we're just pushing back out of JFK and Lifetime Live Weather. Got a real nice sunrise here. I just had to bring you in early. I was going to bring you in once we were in position, basically in place, ready to go. But this was just too good to pass up. Yeah, so the plan is going to take off and swing round onto the... We're not going to do the entire start. It's the approach where it gets interesting. And there is one video a passenger filmed, and I'm going back years, and people were trying to figure out which approach was it. And the best results were that the pilot was given approach number 1, and basically ATC cancelled it last minute, and then pilot was switched to approach number 2, if we just want to call it like that. And the passengers basically got this really nice tour of the city that would never otherwise happen. Well, this particular prescribed approach basically combines what that passenger saw. So I'm looking forward. So let's come to a full stop. Let's see what we get. Disconnect the tug while we start the engines. Number 2 coming up. There goes the tug. Right, good start on 2. Let's get number 1 up and running and all. And there's some minor rain on. Let's see if we can resolve this. Oh, and far too loud. No, sod that. It's louder than the engines and the air packs and everything combined. We can live with a couple of drops on the windscreen, I think. We are, of course, in the Phoenix 320, which has been rated as one of, if not the most realistic aircraft you can get for flights in 2020 at this moment in time. And featuring on here is going to be, there we go, our approach into LaGuardia. But for now, it's a JFK. It's just going to be the visual departure. I've got that in here. We're just going to grab this here off 4 left. All right, so both engines up and running. The tug's disappeared. Engines are stabilized. Set flaps 1, auto brake max. We'll clear out the MCs. Boy, there's a lot of MCs. What's the situation here? Oh my goodness. I'll have to take another look at that in a minute if they've not already gone out. Right, APU bleed can disappear. APU can disappear. Strobes to auto. Turn off lights on. Taxi lights on. Landing lights can extend but leave them off. And yeah, with that, I think we're good to go upstairs. Downstairs, flaps are set. Trim for 0. And is set. Auto brakes armed. Flaps 1 set. Parking brake is off. Quick flight controls. Is the engine starter switches off? Well, they are now. Alright, quick flight controls. Check. Rolling left. Rolling right. Neutral again. Putting my left boot in. Neutral. Right boot in. Neutral. Alright, we're good to go. By the way, live traffic. Not player traffic, real world traffic. And certainly want to set this, where are we here? Night chart, there we go. Now what's the situation? Air pack. How can we have faults on the packs? Engine bleeds are on. Cross bleed valves auto. Everything there looks good. We'll cycle them. We'll see if that's you know, the equivalent of pulling out the power and resetting it doesn't resolve the issue. Well, I can hear the pack, so I guess that did it. Real spooky sort of looking morning here. I mean, anybody living in New York, tell me, have you got a sky that looks like it's glowing orange on fire with rain? I've seen a sky like this where I live without the rain about 2 or 3 times, and one of the times I was lucky enough to be outside with my camera. I'm going back a few years now. Caught some amazing pictures. I don't think I've ever bested those pictures since. Of course, most of the time you see something. Well, I get when I say you ain't got your camera, of course these days you've got your phone camera, but right, takeoff config check. Let's get that in. It's probably going to complain about the predictive wind shear, which it does, even though that's not yet simulated in Flight Sim. But regardless, we'll turn it on just so she doesn't moan. Just going to pick up the pace a bit. Again, we're not trying to simulate the taxiing aspect of this too realistically. That said, it used to handle atrociously in Flight Sim 2020. I think they've improved it since the last time I did it. It's feeling a lot better than it used to do. And look, the raindrop starting to move up the screen now as we're picking up pace as well. Yeah, it's a lot better than it used to be, which is always nice. All right, constraints my side, airports your side, 40 nav your side, together with the terrain. That's all good. And yeah, clear to cross. Strobes on while we cross. No hanging around, we're just getting there. Decided to pull the standby compass out today. Alright, we got dome lights, we'll get rid of those. Come on, come on, come on. .30 knots. And we'll be clear for the immediate, according to JFK Tower. Kennedy Steve is giving us permission to just shoot right off, and so we've said thanks. Yeah. Do you know, I should at one point edit a video where I'm flight simming, but on the edit, of course, it would be impossible to do live, but do it, you know, in the editor, basically paste in all this stuff from Kennedy Steve, get like all his best moments and paste them all in, make it seem like it all happened at the same time. All right then, runway 4 left, Airbus A320, sporting the Phoenix livery. Decided to use their OG livery. Clear for takeoff. Landing lights on. Whoa, alright, that still needs sorting. The strobes are on, wing lights are on, nose light to take off. Come on. And with that, clock's already starting. I'm going to call the engine stable there, and let's go Toga. Well, by Toga, we're calling takeoff thrust, which is where? There we go, flex 65, 80 knots. Needing quite a bit of left rudder. 120. There's V1. There's rotate. looks like we had a change in barometric pressure there, got the neg just as we were rolling. Look at that aircraft dead ahead of us. Kennedy Steve will be in bother, especially seeing as we're prescribed to follow the dude. How's the well, it's on. Let's see if we get a TCAS. Perhaps not so much now. Thrust back to climb. And let's get the autopilot on. Up to 5. Legs page my side now. Do away with the spoilers. Keep flaps 1 for now. While we get up to pace, push the zoom. Yeah, so this waypoint here, Greg, with the double G on the front is where it begins, and so that's where I'm looking to vector myself onto. Of course, Kennedy's only a few miles away from LaGuardia. That's, I think we can probably see it there. So here's Kennedy, where we just took off from, and LaGuardia is right there. So LaGuardia start, and yeah, I wanted to show, so this was here the partway visual for runway 31. So this is what it always was originally. Now they've since added a load of these RNAV fixes, so these 5 letters. They never used to be, so this was literally a visual that they had these landmarks drawn in, such as the bridge here, Prospect Park, hence where it got its name from. Is this? I know. Yeah, no, this is the Parkway visual, so it comes in over the park. Very similar to the expressway visual, only that starts around here and follows the expressway on this leg. Now, of course, with these fixes in, we can have the autopilot and RNAV follow it, which of course is what you're supposed to do. Advantages, of course, lower minimums, but what I really want to show, what you don't see here because it didn't exist. Here we see the Hudson River on the left here, so here's Manhattan, of course. All the big skyscrapers are on this black bit. If we come over to what is the latest RNAV here for 3.1 X-ray, we got the same approach in here, except this is prescribed, not visual. We can verify that using these 5 letters here. We see Pachu, for example, and if we come back to the visual one, there we can see it, Pachu. So yeah, Pachu onto Shea. Pachu onto Shea, so that's a confirm. But if we look at this, what connects us into Pachu, this bit here that's obviously slightly off scale, there's Pachu. In other words, we start here at Greg with the double G, we fly around here through Jackie round here. This is basically skirting the edge of the Hudson, so if you sat in the left, fantastic views of the city, and we swing around left. I'm describing this now because when it takes place it's going to be a little too quick. Left again, not sure if we'll see a Statue of Liberty on the left, but we'll certainly see it from the external views. That's going to bring us into Pachu, which is here, and then on in. I'm going to see exactly how far the autopilot is going to take us along this journey, where it's going to drop us around out of, and yeah, just fantastic looking clouds there. Everything maxed out, so we'll have to see. Again, we are in a very densely populated area. It's not just densely populated, but in terms of graphics, densely populated area. I did put these custom waypoints in. I think that's Deer Park, VOR, about 10 miles away. I don't see any reason to do that. I'm going to vector myself to the north and yeah, set ourselves up for the approach. I'm just going to climb a little bit while we do so. There we go, and we can do away. Oh, we've already done away with the flaps. Must have forgotten about that while I was yapping. Again, the traffic that we see here on TCAS is real world. So if you were to look, well, if you live in New York, look outside, you'd see them. Or if you got your flight radar type apps, you should see them as well. Of course, what you don't see, or at least I don't on the flight radar, is the specific waypoints. I've tried to sort of line myself up with real world traffic before on it and see, you know, to try and figure out, you know, how accurate it is, but wow, what a shot that was. Screenshot, yes please. never realised it had the Union Jack on the side of the default Phoenix, so I'm going to guess the developers are from the UK, although I don't know. I'm going to hit 11 just so that we get the additional speed that comes with it being above 250. And zooming in a little bit, Greg. All right, so it's only about 10, 12 miles away, something like that. But so that we're facing the right way, you know, I want to get a real nice view of the city. I think what I'm going to do is sort of a teardrop entry into the correct direction there. So if we come over to, I don't know, something like 325. Here we are now above 10. Speed is accelerating as you'd expect. We'll put the landing lights away accordingly. Wing lights, turn off lights, nose light can certainly disappear, and we'll let everybody spark up. Smoking signs are off. Very nice again. Very nice indeed. I'll say it every time I play this game. I can't believe how much the graphics and everything have come on in my lifetime. I'll say it every time. Back when I was a kid, it was just a grey rectangle for a runway, and I remember there being 3 runways on the entire map, and one of them had a singular white dotted line down the middle that was like 1 pixel wider line, and that was like the main airport, and the others were not. And around the edge of the map were 3 or 4 triangles that were just 2-dimensional triangles, and there was no textures or anything. It was just a green block for the grass, and there was these black lines that drew like a grid, and I wanted to say there were like something like every 500 yards or something like that there was another black line that formed this grid. And between that and about 1,000,000% imagination, you could just about call it a flight sim if you were bending, you were distorting the truth a little bit. But alas, yeah, that was flight sim. All right, so passing over Greg now, so I'm looking to do this right-hander to finish off this turn. So dropping down, let's see actually what heights does he want us in at Greg. If we can see here, Greg got an MSA there. It's like 4,000 is actually mandatory. So let's drop it down to 4. And I didn't realize it was so low. I mean, I guess I should have really just looked on the ND. I was too busy talking about times gone. But yeah, let's start this teardrop turn now. And I guess always feels like you've made a mistake if you have to use the boards. But you know what? Let's call it. We made a mistake. So I'm going to keep this right on. So I never noticed this before. When you move the heading dial, you get, when it's off the ND, you get the number there. That is a really nice touch. I have not noticed that before. I don't know if that's airline specific or some other sort of option. But we're below 250. We're about to drop through 10. So let's get the lights back on. Turn off lights. Wing lights, and nose light is going to be our CTL. I am going to get rid of the standby compass now just because it is taking off some of the view, and I really want to get a nice view of the city. Let's ask ACARS then for the desk data, because we're starting to get... How are we doing for height? Well, 4.5 to go. Just go this way for a sec, and then we'll reverse the turn. So we'll clear that off and ask weather request ident KLGA, and we'll send that off, and we'll wait for our we've got a message, and while we wait, we'll continue this right-hand turn now. 2 and a bit to go. What's it say? Message. Here we go. All right, KLGA wind 0408. I don't care about that. We're doing runway 31. Come hell or high water. Broken at 19. Overcast at 2.5. Temperatures 4. Altimeters 3019, which is the same as when we just left JFK. And then the rest of it to do with remarks on how slippery and performance of the braking. All right. I'm going to have to feed this info in regardless, and you know, it would ideally suggest we use a different runway, but we're doing this one anyways. 3019, temps 4 degrees, winds 0408, and the minimums. Still away with the board. Sounds like we're finally sorted here, and so now we're gonna go direct Greg. Okie doke. All right, so this is the start of the approach. I was looking for arrivals that bring you to Greg, and I can't offhand remember if one of them did, but certainly if you go into LaGuardia and for some reason or other you've got to go missed and you're coming in on 3-1, it would seem that Greg is where you go after your missed approach. In other words, if you're coming in on 3-1, for whatever reason you've got to spin off, you go to Greg and hold, and then when ATC says, yeah, we're ready for you, then it looks like this is the way you'll go. So the only way it would seem to get this approach in real life is if your pilot screws up or somebody screws up and the pilot's got to go around initially. Maybe, you know, you're lucky enough to get a gust of wind at the wrong time, or some minor thing like one of the gear lights doesn't show green in time or something like that. Either way, we're back to managed across the board. Let's do it there as well. He's at 4. And this approach managed essentially brings us all the way down to 2.2 here at GACA, which is here. So that's basically the start of the expressway visual bit on that approach. GACA 2.2. So I'm going to pre-select that, and we'll try and do the entire thing with the autopilot so we can look out. Greg now 5 to 6 miles ahead of us, and with that being the case, we're going to start taking a look outside. Let's see the grabbing crew. The cabin crew. Bunch of aircraft now in the immediate area. Problem is, if we get any resolution advisories, the Phoenix Airbus does actually pursue them, and so I think it's worth coming out of tar raw and just sticking with tar. Yeah, for those who haven't seen it, I did put out a video I think about 3 months ago where I was chasing an aircraft down, desperately trying to get the resolution advisory, but using the autopilot, and it did it. It dumped us. I can't remember if it climbed us or dumped us down, and as soon as the conflict was done, it put us back to where we were. So it looks like we're about to drop out the bottom of the clouds here as we're approaching Greg. So this here, the start of the approach. Right around. Again, this bit here is not to scale. It says that there, but we're basically coming to this waypoint here. And yeah, all this is new. When I was going through the charts about 6 months ago, this approach simply did not exist. Here we've got the Hudson, barely visible. There we go, getting a bit of a view there now. And this island here, or if you want to call it an island, is going to lead to Manhattan. Oh, sorry, I'm mixing them up. Hudson's over there. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we are going to be riding down the Hudson momentarily. Again, really liking some of these holes in the clouds. This is just something that I've not seen any other flight sim be able to produce. DCS has got some holes in the clouds, but those clouds are like a 3D static model that, although now they've been able to make the 3D model move through the sky, it doesn't develop or evolve over time. It's just, it's basically a massive object in the sky that slowly moves or not. But to be able to see gaps like this is really nice, and yeah, something that's just amazing. And I think if we don't drop out, because we can see we're right on
traffic.
All right, here's our first advisory. Now he is 400 feet above us and climbing. Now there's a guy right up his behind -7, so these are offset by about 1,000 feet, only a couple miles apart. So I'm wondering if ATC's got their eye on that. I guess they will have. I am tempted to just drop out the bottom manually a bit. I know it's going to be slightly below 4, but if I don't, I just feel like we're going to be seeing the bottom of these clouds a lot. So I'm going to drop it by 500 feet as we come towards the second waypoint on this approach by the name of Zarid. Now you can see the plus 4,000 there in pink means we need to be at or above 4,000. And so, yeah, being a little bit naughty there, dropping down. And apparently the clouds are getting worse. I'm just wondering, oh, look at that aircraft there. Only just noticed it. And if we hadn't dropped down, that would have almost been a collision, I think. I'm just wondering, can I change the weather on the fly? And of course, answer is yes. Okay, that was a little bit too much, but let me just see if we can bring a few clouds back. But I still want to be able to see the city. Perhaps if we just raise these up. There we go, that'll do. That'll do, there we go. Now we got a nice view. I think the frame rate's come up a bit with it as well. Actually, it's just a little bit too much shade for my liking. You know what, let's go back to the view clouds. There we go. It's of course early morning. I did load this up and it was almost pitch black. Right, so here we are now coming over LGA. So here is actually where we're going to be landing in a few moments time, and we're going to be in line with the runway here. Coming around, see if we can spot. Here is the expressway that we're going to be following down. I mean, this again used to be just be an entirely visual thing, is now prescribed. Was always one of the more interesting ones even before, and not that it's not interesting now, it's just that with this extended little bit that we're on here, we get to do this bit of the tour of the city. And again, if you're sat on the left hand side of the aircraft here, you really are in for a treat on this. Just something else. Looks like this guy, and again, look at that slight difference between where real world thinks he is and where he actually was by about, I look like about 100 yards. They still not got the bridges quite right, have they? The bridges look like these gigantic walls. But other than that, just wow. Interesting, it looks like a massive old power station. London's got exactly the same. A massive old coal-fired power station right in the middle of the city. Not that it's been used for a while, but Central Park here. Hello Warrior, joining us live in chat. Absolutely incredible. I still don't understand how the computer isn't dropping to bits. Let's get a cockpit view, and again you see we're still prescribed. And speaking of being prescribed, let's drop it down to 2.2 as scheduled. So I'm going to go down to 2.2, hit managed. And I think I want to start reducing the speed. I'm going to reduce it manually to about there. And we'll pop the flaps. And again, the oh, little pause there as some scenery's loading up. Again, I didn't fly this ahead of time to test it or load scenery. That reflection on the water down there looks absolutely incredible. Just yeah, it blows my mind. It's just such a shame that some of this game still feels like it's a little bit too much Xboxy and not enough simulation wise, but certainly can't say that for the graphics. Freedom Tower here with a big spike, and of course Statue of Liberty, which to me seems an awful lot closer to the Jersey Shore than I recall. I'm sure the Statue of Liberty was much on it a bit like more like there. I mean, I'm not suggesting anyone's pulled it in over there, but to me it felt like it was there. Either way, who knows?
2,500.
All right, continuing to descent. We're at 180, so let's dump the flaps now. Flaps 1. And as soon as they're out, let's go managed on the speed. Autopilot's wanting to accelerate again, so I'm going to tell it to activate the approach phase. Right, one other thing that I think we can do here is hit the approach button. And it says it's all rigged up, ready to go. And so we'll see how that is, but for now we'll enjoy the view. And again, I'm sure there is a video on YouTube, again, passenger on the left, basically filming this or something very similar to it. Although I recall them circling a little closer to the buildings there as they went round onto final. But yeah, if you're treated to this in real life, make sure you hit record on the phone. Sod what they say about electronic devices, just hit that record button. Everybody else ignores it. Incredible detail here. By the way, I was playing this on DirectX 12 about a week or two ago, and the frame rate was atrocious. And somebody suggested switching to DirectX 11, and that seems to have sorted it right out. Yeah, the bridges still leave a lot to be desired. I'm not sure why they screw them up so badly when they get everything else looking so good. Surely there's a left turn coming up. Let's have a quick look inside. Yeah, so here we are coming up to Nicol in about 5 nautical miles, which is this point here. So this leg since Jackie's basically been 15 nautical miles there. We see at 14.7. We're still supposed to maintain 4,000. Of course, I OK the descent down to 2. Now, why are we still descending? 2.2, we're well below 2.2. Yeah, we got the approach arms, but we're not anywhere near, and we're still on the descent phase. Out final is still in blue, which in theory means it's not active yet. The vertical deviation shows that we are low, so why are we descending? And again, there's just these minor things, so I'm going to have to manually, I think, pick it up a little bit. Let's see if I can pull it on the VS. There we go. Give it a little bit more oomph as well. I mean, supposedly this point was to be 4,000, so let's just go to 4 and see what you would see. Yeah, I was only originally lowering it because of the terrible weather that unfortunately I've had to do away with because we wouldn't see anything. I see we are coming in along the Atlantic coastline here on the east coast of the US. If we were to continue up there indefinitely, we'd end up in Chicago after passing Boston. But for now, you see the Manhattan skyline once again. Kennedy Airport's around here somewhere, I think, and LaGuardia right around there. All right, there we are, 4,000. Now we're through that last waypoint, Varese, there, where we have to be at 4. Well, we are now at 4, finally catching up with the vertical deviation. So I'm just going to hit the approach. It's still on. Let's see if approach. We've got final lap. Final lap mode. Okay, brilliant. So I can forget about the rest of it. Let's go manage speed. Find out what the missed approach is. But it's climb to 2, direct Greco, and hold. So we'll drop that down to 2. Let's have a little look. I'm just moving forward so the wing's out the way a little bit. I'll have to one day go see how to set up the view in permanent, but for now, just scrolling along. That'll do. Yeah, you can see that little issue there with the bridges. The underneath is just this like a wall, but otherwise that looking really nice. And yeah, there we see it. Statue of Liberty again, Manhattan coming into view. Let's dump a notch of flaps. Flaps 2, we hear the speed going back. Let's dump the gear. Never actually dumped the gear from the cabin. I wonder what it sounds like. Well, I didn't hear the thud, but I can hear, at least I think I can hear the wheels running through the air. The thud from the cockpit sounds really good. Yeah, there wasn't that kick, that real nice kick that you get from the cockpit. I'm surprised, actually, because you'd think it'd be the same. All right, let's go flaps 3, getting a little high on the angle of attack there. But final up looks good. Lateral and vertical deviation are all good. And a glance here to the left-hand side, just wow. The reflection as well of the buildings in the water. Really nice. I mean, there is this weird, almost like, I can't describe it. They're not quite right. There's almost like this weird crumpled crisp packet effect look to them. I'm not sure what that's for. I don't recall Flight Sim being like this when it first came out. At one point, it's like they released an update that made it look worse, not better. And I don't think they've ever sorted that since. And I think I am talking about the buildings. Perhaps it was to make it harder for people to fake it. I don't know. You know, but fake shots, passing it off as real, but I couldn't tell you. Screenshot. By LaGuardia should now be dead ahead. And yeah, there we see it. And so we're veering off the approach for this runway now and looking for the expressway. Again, it's all been done. So here's the expressway that is traditionally or at least up until now, flown manually. And there's at least 3 or 4 videos kicking around the internet where pilots are doing just that. Right, before I forget, arm the boards, auto brake medium, ring-a-ding, and flaps full to go. We'll zoom in here as well. Yeah, so we're still going down. What was the minimums? I realise I completely forgot to set that up, but not that it matters. 1160 or 1153 if you're going on the Radalt. But you'd go 1160 barometric because you're going to get your Radalts bouncing off these buildings, and I think you'll get lower on 1160. Yeah, so the runway that we're coming in to land is just behind this little leg bit that sticks out in the water. We can just about see the airport there. And so far the autopilot doing a terrific job. I'm going to go flaps full, 1500 feet, and I'm going to try sit still for a bit and just small movements with the head. 1000, okay. I'm still not flying it. It's autopilot doing it all for now. Of course, it can't auto land an RNAV. At some point, we'll have to disconnect, but I'm seeing how far we can push it. Here we got these weird sort of parks and structures. Flight sim showing them up to a certain point. These little buildings, I say little, they're massive, but yeah, so in real life you see them get quite close to these buildings. In fact, one of them says that they're uncomfortably close. Let's move over so we can keep an eye on the approach here. Just about to see our shadow coming up here as well. Yeah, so you see that is a little uncomfortably close. I do see his point. Actually descending a little low, so I'm going to disconnect.
Too low, terrain.
So yeah, the autopilot doing overall there, I thought a really good job. Did bring us in a little low there at the end, but you know, that's why the minimums aren't down to 50, they're down to 1160 some. Yeah, this aircraft feels a lot better than it did even just 3 or 4 months ago. They've done something to improve it. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's a lot better than it used to be.
40, 30, 20, retard. 5.
See that little kick to the right? Oh, yes. That is the sign that somebody has done it before. Kicking it straight there. Alright, manual brake. Auto brake can disappear. We got the fans on. We never used the reversers. Get the APU booting up. We'll vacate left. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to LaGuardia. Remain seated until the aircraft has come to work. Oh, no, that's not my job, is it? Get rid of the boards. Hopefully we're all cleaned up. Hang on, I'm sure I just put the... Hey? Alright, what's going on here? That's arm the boards. That's get rid of the boards. That's extend the boards. Surely. What am I missing? Who knows? Alright. Every time they fix something, they break something else. Never mind. Looks like somebody, again, real world traffic here, somebody setting off to go somewhere. APU says it's on. rather the master's on. Let's I should have booted that a little, a few seconds later. I did forget. I guess I got obsessed with the boards here. Let's do away with the transponder. ATC's having a go at us for cutting the corners, but yeah, so no special scenery at all. I'm just using the Microsoft default for everything. And yeah, shows a little bit at this airport. JFK actually looked really good. They had what I thought was at least one big custom building, potentially more. But I'm quite liking that window effect there, but feels a little generic here. Alright, I'm going to come to a full stop here. Parking brakes on. APU, are you up and running yet? APU says available. With that, we'll chop that. We'll chop the beacon, the turn off, the nose lights. The signs can disappear. The predictive wind shear can go off. This is already off, but we'll put it fully off. What else? 3, 2, 1. External power says available. Well, APU bleed on, but we'll have some of that regardless. I'm not sure if you use an APU bleed, but you use an external power, would you save anything at all versus using your own power, bearing in mind the APU is running anyway? I mean, I don't know, maybe it would use like a tiny bit more. I don't know. I'm not even sure if ever such a thing would be. But until next time, take care and hope you enjoyed that. Bye-bye. From New York.